Welcome to TradeTheNBA.com. This is John's Reports for the 29th, and we're about to end the month. It's not completely unreasonable to start. We began right back here with 37.48, and we're at 37.43. So it's a month of going nowhere, but within that nowhere, we've had quite a bit of range move. And of course, I've always talked about this for years and years. You know, markets fall 66% faster than they rise. And in this case, it kind of shows a little bit even more dramatic than that, because you had nearly an entire month of working its way higher only to be, wiped out in a single day. And then, of course, we're just going back and forth. The only thing keeping things from really falling down was short-term buyers jumped into this to stem the decay. We haven't dipped below the red line. If we do, I would expect then potentially 50% could break. It's just a question of, will there be enough momentum before you start seeing a drawback down in the short interest in this particular case. And of course, we saw the fun with GameStop and that, and we posted that real time how that was going to happen and the retrace that was going to take place. Now, did we know that they were going to restrict trading in the different apps and stuff? People always say free market. Well, I've tried to point out for many years it's not necessarily a free market. There are those that control it. This may have been a little bit excessive what they did, but they certainly were able to get out of their shorts on that massive decline. Even some reports, saw a report on Zero Hedge about how there were some forced liquidations of people's long positions without the need of ridiculously low prices, like in the hundreds, comparative with the stock selling at 400, and people couldn't even get out at the peaks. Of course, once it dipped, now things have returned back up. Take a look at it later, but it's just a part and parcel of how, the controlled aspect of algos and their ability to really move things unrelated to real value. Because again, anyone who thinks that GameStop suddenly is worth that much more money based on what? Well, that shows you what you can do within markets if you have enough funds and liquidity to do it. So from an NQ standpoint, again, we're starting much lower on the day here as well. Short-term buyers trying to push this one up, and you get this power drop in the orange. I'd be watching that one, because if steel gets back above, then I'm looking for steel move right back, below the zero would be that indication. Sort of like the buy that developed here. We moved above zero and back below, and then as soon as the orange dips, bingo. And that's the takeoff of looking for those intraday. We had some really interesting ones because we didn't get a steel reset and the market continued to erode. Again, the euro's in suspension mode at this particular point until things begin to shake out with its members and where things are going to go. And again, when the market suffers, you tend to see some of these liquidity failures in gold. And we talked about the problems that gold's going to have, especially with inflation and the continued uneven response of the labor markets, and that really would drive price higher. So let's go to that 5K chart. This is quite a chart here, because we started with a series of positive extremes just below the red line. We came back, revisited them, ended up with some interesting buy configurations before we started with some really decent sell maneuvers, and that just basically formed a nice double bottom if you just look at it from a broader perspective right there. And then when the buys came in, see, you had the dip below, cross back above, and that orange happened within a reasonable time. In this particular case too, you also had the, I always look and see to make sure the yellow has crossed above magenta on my shakeout, just to make sure that things are going in the right direction, even if you waited for the orange candle. It's just 2 bars later, and that's when the green has crossed above cyan, just to confirm it. But straight up with the red DOC led to some decent rises. Classic DOC spread that was short-lived in this particular case. It was just a little dip, and that was that rising gold, which I always warn that, hey, a lot of times you just get a couple of bar dip and then it turns around on those. So it's one of those that I like to watched pretty carefully. But then again, when you turned around, and that led to a nice sprint back up that was just filled with, again, those tiny little moves. You had complete steal from underneath, was really giving, strong support, because every time it came in, steel pops up, boom, spiders out here where green moves back above, and it continued, and that went on through most of the day. But you started to see this trend of lower and lower shakeouts, and then you start to notice the red DSC below zero and unable to peak, and that started to get my interest, thinking about when the potential short was going to come. And so it was just a matter of playing back and forth each time these came in, just looking to see if we were getting the conversion buy. And that it kept happening, so it was just a matter of being flexible to that. We came to the second set of them. We had already had gold pretty high up on the shakeout at that particular point, and that began to interest me because it doesn't really usually get much past this mid-range. You can see the kind of relative peaks that gold gets here, up in the 4. This one moved all the way up to 6. Here we are with an 8. And so that progressively higher trending as you're then starting to get lower shakeouts. And I was thinking, okay, it's just a matter of waiting for that right opportunity. And they started coming. I mean, every time we were getting a short, it's like, well, there was still more heat being applied to it. But then they kept coming with those separations between the cyan green. And ideally, I'm looking for the flattening to dropping of my Power Mode 2 above the 13 at Azure line. And it started, and once it began, look at that steal. No dip, not even a dip towards the zero. That doesn't happen until right about here. And that still was about 134, which I still look for under 1 for confirmation. So even that one, which was the closest that I was thinking about from a cover standpoint, still didn't hit, and that continues all the way until we get to this post-market right about here, and that's actually produced the only, well, they're still relatively modest from a turnaround standpoint, but like I talked about, big volatility and huge ranges, all fitting within some of these previous algo points that they reconstituted the exact same plays. But when you're talking about going from 38.20 and you're now looking at 37.40 in a pretty continuous line down, with really literally very poor DSC red. I mean, barely able to get to the -7 in almost every single one of these. So you started well above zero, then you started having trouble staying above zero, then it went to, every time it was trying to peak, being under zero to being under 7. That's some serious liquidity drain, or at least just a lack of buy interest on that. And we can see what the net result of it is. This is the Diaconping 2 with the gamma function paint bar. And what we see in some of these the light colors in these modes here is where theoretically you might have achieved a buy configuration, but literally unable to meet any of the criteria, and so literally it just becomes a continuation. And the only reason you see the gold ones pop up is that's just an indication of gold, meaning the momentum is still continuing in the same direction. And it's exactly what you've got right there. This has been the closest to what we would define as buy configuration, but even when it happened, you still couldn't even get green above. The green really didn't pop above until right here on this bar just a little bit ago. So that's showing some of the problem areas within the general market. I know that Bitcoin had suffered a little bit of a decline there, but again in the aftermarket, popping up just like GameStop once they had the massive dip, and then shorts are able to, get themselves out of, the mayhem that they put themselves in. Miraculously, their platforms are going to allow trading in it again. It's a dual problem, though, for regulators in that, because you get to a point where, it's like the tulip mania. You're bidding up a company that you can't justify the valuation. But then again, some could say that about a lot of the different stocks that have risen recently, and some of it's, like we pointed out, was a little bit different. It's about the devaluation of the dollar as opposed to the value of the company, and it's maintaining a general value within the decrease of the currency. So that's a separate aspect of some of the value growth that we've seen. But going to be fun to watch it play out, but again, this idea of free and fair markets has always been kind of an interesting one from my viewpoint, because again, I've always talked about imbalances. You look to take advantage of one side that's weaker than the other, and that's how the markets really work, with a general concept of underlying value that gives a baseline. So just some interesting thoughts on that there. As always, though, I'll be sending out indicators over the weekend, so you'll be all set for February's action. And it looks to be a raucous one. I think that even just closing up this month is also, we're already off 35 here early in the pre-market. So it's going to be fun. As always, though, trade well, and certainly be on the Skype chat and throwing my input in there. Trade well.